Hello and welcome to this special discussion where we look at some of the effects excessive usage of mobile phones can have on us users who are seeming to be spending more time on it during this pandemic. In fact, hardware maker Vivo India conducted a study recently that showcases the impact of mobile devices on consumers, especially in 2020, the year of social distancing, and presents shock impacts of smartphones on personal health and also social relationships. This, in fact, brings about this panel discussion where we are trying to find out about a survey that was conducted recently by Vivo and what are the impacts on it on the society as we speak. Joining me right now on this panel is Nipun Maria, Director of Brand Strategy, Vivo India, Dr. Sunil Mittal, Chairman, Cosmos Institute of Mental Health and Behavioral Sciences, General Secretary, Caring Foundation, Director, Asia Pacific, World Federation for Mental Health, and a patron of SeekMed. And also we have with us Noanil Chakravarti, author of several books which are all about in the OTT web series. And in fact, it's going to become a web series very soon. His book is going to be turned into one. Gentlemen, thank you so much for lending your time for this important discussion. Now, there is no denying the fact that smartphones have become an important tool in our day-to-day routine, helping us connect with our friends, family, and the world in general, especially during this lockdown. The significance, however, is that, during this lockdown, when it hit people this year, it forced them to stay indoors, and hence smartphone became from just a lifeline of improving overall quality of communication. It became something that people started relying on to keep in touch with their families, to feel safe, secure, and even entertained from different parts of the country. However, excessive usage or excessive of anything, as we know, is not good. And smartphone excessive usage is triggering addiction amongst users. Smartphones are definitely becoming the center of our lives. But the study that you guys have conducted, Nipun, and I would like to rope you in at this point, it has some very interesting findings. 39% increase in overall smartphone usage over 2019 in a post-COVID era. 84% users check their smartphones within 15 minutes of waking up compared to 52% last year. In fact, this to me was one of the most striking statistics. So, Nipun, let's start this discussion with you. Talk to us about, what were the highlights according to you when you saw some of the results of this survey. What were your first thoughts?
Okay, thank you so much, Megha, for having me here. You're absolutely right. When we saw the findings of the research, we ourselves were shocked. We were expecting some of the numbers to come, but the numbers I was expecting were was to the tune of maybe 15% increase, 20% increase, but a 39% increase in phone usage is something which I had never imagined. And we're talking about 2019 to 2020. So in just a matter of 1 year, we have seen a 39% increase in smartphone usage. So where last year, the average phone usage, daily average phone usage was 4.5 hours or thereabout. This year, we're talking about a nearly 7-hour daily usage of smartphones, which in a way, is really a 39% increase, and it's a lot. And just building on this further, while calling and working from home have contributed significantly to the increase, the increase has also come from entertainment-led activities like consumption on OTT, gaming, social media, and we can talk more about it as we move forward. But broadly speaking, there were 3 main sections we talked about. The first was about the usage. The second is about addiction. And the third is about relationships and the impact this has had on relationships.
Well, just for the benefit of our viewers, I am going to say that this study was conducted in association with Cyber Media Research, and it was called Smartphones and Their Impact on Human Relationships, as you just pointed out. Just curious to know what compelled you to actually do this kind of survey where you talk about communication and the impact that it has on human connections. Like, what led you to dive deep into this study?
Sure. So being a smartphone brand and investing so much in the development of smartphones, in the development of technology, imaging, etc., etc. Some people may say it's counterintuitive for a smartphone brand to tell people to switch off at times. But the reason for that is we believe Vivo, while we're in the business of smartphones, there is an even greater purpose why Vivo exists, and that greater purpose is to spread joy to all our stakeholders. And that's exactly the reason why we invest so much when it comes to technology. But excess of anything, as you also rightly mentioned, is bad. And therefore that's the point we want to bring to the table, that smartphones are great. Smartphones are wonderful when used in the right way, but let us not be slaves to the technology.
But at this point, let me get Dr. Sunil Mittal, and we've been talking about addiction, and we know the negatives on a very broader perspective. But from a medical point of view, can you tell us in terms of what are some of the perils of smartphone addiction?
Well, yeah, thank you, Megha. So, like Nipun said, we need not be slaves to technology. Well, technology is here to assist us, help us. It's sort of like objects and technology are meant for us, not us for them. That's important to understand. And we realize that, technology use is going to increase. So is smartphone use increasing. The surveys figures I was going through, and we see that almost 66% believe that smartphones improve the quality of their life. So smartphones have added to quality of our life. So it's not just negative. In the pandemic, we have seen right from entertainment to staying connected to ordering medicines, ordering your grocery, everything is on the smartphone. The world is there on the smartphone. So it's increasing. 70% the survey said that if it continues to increase, it is likely to impact their mental and physical health. So 70% people realize this, that it's impacting or it's likely to impact. And 74% the survey says actually feel that they should switch off their mobile phone for some time. So 3/4 of people who use mobile phones feel they should switch off. But then, sadly, only 18% actually switch off. So this is of interest, being a behavioral expert. What is it that you know that you need to switch off and you can't switch off? What is that compulsion that drives us? And then, of course, like all addictions, it's a behavioral addiction that can develop. So we need to differentiate between smartphone use, smartphone overuse, and dependence or addiction. And we know this, that in our brain, there are dopamine circuits, neurocircuits. The dopamine, the feel-good neurochemical in the brain everybody is talking about. So once you get a reward, there is a drive that builds up, and you want to do that activity again, whether it's eating a pleasurable recipe or visiting a nice place that gives you a high, meeting a person who makes you feel good. And here is a reward on your palm. You get it instantly. You don't need to even to wait for it. So there is a sort of a feedback loop that sets in. You want to do it more and more. You need to stop, but you cannot stop. And the impact on life, whether it's on your own personal mental health, whether it's on your cognition, people believe, hey, I can multitask, but you can't. You can't be on a point. And then it affects your sleep, physical health, everything. Yes, please.
Absolutely. I mean, I still can't get over. I think it was the CEO of Netflix who had once said that their biggest competitor is not another OTT platform, but it's sleep. And that goes on to say about how addicted all of us are. And at this point, let me bring in Nomineel. Nomineel, it's not just about the fact that we're using our phone, but the fact that what we are using it for, and content creators are more and more moving away from the traditional ways of, even publishing is moving away from that, right? We're all moving to e-publishing. We're recreating content to feed users further into this addiction and into this fact that they are able to spend more time on screen. Of course, there is an aspect of sheer convenience and connectivity, but we've been able to by now establish that there are long-term implications of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, thanks, Megha, for having me on the show. And one of the statistics that Vivo India shared that excited me or interested me, and I was into it, was 80. They said that 80% of the users they think that fun and entertainment come into their lives because of smartphones, right? So I was just wondering, if 80% of the people surveyed believe that, then there's so much less happening in their real life. Maybe that's why they think that the fun and entertainment will come from that device, small device that they, are so much attached to. And I think, and this is my personal observation because I'm a writer, so I keep talking to a lot of people and try to understand pattern in human, psychology. So I came across this realization that a lot of people somewhere are, because so many things, as Dr. Mittal rightly said, that so many things are there on the phone, that first it becomes a compulsion to go there, because when, for example, during the lockdown, I didn't know from where to order my grocery, etc., etc. So I had to go to an app to order it. Now, slowly, without my realization of it, that compulsion, I become compulsive about it. And that's exactly what I also do. I mean, 15 minutes is a long time. I do it within 2 minutes. Like, the first thing I do is just open my eyes and check on the phone. So that's what happens. And I think I'll take a step back from this, and I will also try to focus on one point that I think we generally don't confront when we talk about these things, is the fact that, and this is my completely personal observation, as a generation, as in my generation and a generation next to me, I think we are less on self-control. Like, our previous generations have more self-control, and the more we are getting compulsive about these devices and the apps and gaming and whatever that's booming right now, I don't think we will all want to not use it, because we all know that it will affect us, but I don't think we'll be able to end up not doing it.
Okay, we will have to slip into a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We will continue this discussion on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching our special discussion where we are discussing the usage of smartphone, the impacts of it, and how you can find the right balance between productivity and entertainment without it damaging you emotionally and mentally. In fact, we're also here discussing a recent survey that hardware maker VIVO conducted on the impact of smartphones and that it has on human relationships. So, Dr. Mittal, let me then ask you this point that Novinil made about self-control, right? It's clear that many users have come across and said that eventually social media and this excessive usage of phone, which they are not able to control, is taking a toll on them mentally and emotionally. So while we've discussed the problem, could you help us put together some points in terms of how users can actually cope with it?
Well, I think that's important. And like we've been discussing, one of the things that drives people is FOMO, the fear of missing out. And hey, what's happened while I was asleep? What happened while I was in the meeting, and etc. So understanding that the world is going to keep moving, you're not going to miss out on anything. So you're actually developing this self-control that I'm in charge of my life. The brakes of my life, the steering of my life is in my hand, and I can apply the brakes. So that's one. However, like I said, the reward, which is instantaneous, and what Navneil pointed out, which is that, we used to say it's an instant karma, instant generation. It's more than that. You want it at the speed of light. People who said, hey, my phone can take, say, 64, I use device which had 64 KB of memory. And today you say 64 MB is less, and so on. So you want everything happening instantly. So pausing there, unless one is cognizant of that, one cannot make a decision. One. Secondly, at the same time, realizing that there are other pleasures which can give you an equally good high, provided you experiment with them, provided you turn your attention to it. Thirdly, it's a virtual life. Learn to differentiate between the virtual world and the real world. Hey, I tell them that get yourself a real life. Get yourself, connect to the real life. And like what Namil said, if nothing, people used to go to the cinema because they found it entertaining. And we said Bollywood cinema is silly, but they found it entertaining because, well, it gave them pleasure. And the ability to say, this phone is my extension. I'm not an extension of the phone.
Okay, okay. Well, it would take a long time, I think, for several users or the majority to get there. Nippon, let me also quickly bring you in at this point. You've done this study, you know the impacts that it's having on users. So then let me turn the question back. Of course, there is a part where users have to get into that mode of self-realization. When I speak about switch off, in fact, you guys recently started a campaign as well, right? Where you're encouraging people, as ironic as it sounds, as smartphone maker themselves, asking people to switch off their device, put it off for some time, and stay away from it. Talk to us about the campaign. What was the idea behind it, and can you talk to us about some of the early results that you're seeing?
Sure. So this, Megha, is the second edition of our research and the second year when we are, doing this switch off campaign. We did a similar campaign last year around same time in December, as the year closes. And this year again, we are bringing forth the same topic. In fact, this year, what we've also said is that while a lot of us spent 2020 together, but did we really spend time together? That's the thought of this year's campaign.
Okay, let me now get Dr. Sunil Mittal at this point. Definitely the screen time for all of us has increased and it has accelerated, and that is because of the environment and the current situation that we are in. And so, what can we at this point do to adopt some of the practices so that we don't end up seeing long term damages?
This is an important question which strikes everybody, that I want to do it. How do I go about it? In the family, there are lots of things, activities that can be done together. And you can't be just sitting with your children, since children are also impacted. Do this, hey, do that, and well, don't get into my hair. Here's a phone, here's a computer, just get on with it. No. So spend time with children, nourish the relationships, cook together, talk, converse, indoor games. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. You need to just pause and discover. And set aside time for away from the phone, whether it's using technology which reminds you. And like Nipun said, if you can measure it, it becomes a first step for behavioral change.
Absolutely.
And then log it. Because unwanted behavior, once you measure and start logging, it starts becoming less.
Yeah, I understand, Dr. Mittal, what you're saying at this point, but I couldn't help but think you said there are several things that you can do. Listen to music, read a book, cook something. What do we need for all this? Our phone. I need phone to listen to the music. I'm reading on my device. If I'm cooking, I'm looking up the recipe on my device. So, Nominee, at this point, let me ask you on how we can actually be multitasking while reducing screen time and also move away from this need for instant gratification.
See, firstly, taking a lead from what Dr. Mittal was saying, what I have also noticed and which kind of took me by surprise was I have a conversation with a lot of teenagers because they are also one of my TG as far as my books are concerned. So one of the things that I realized is when you talk to them over like online via some chatting app or messengers and all, they come across as extroverts, but when you meet them in person, they suddenly turn into introverts. I think that's also one of the behavioral things that's happening. I don't know whether there's a medical term for it or not, which obviously Dr. Mittal will be able to tell us better. But I think there is a discrepancy it's a weird contradiction. And as far as how we cut down the screen time, see, I can only tell you how I did it and how I do it because it's so difficult from person to person, and because everyone has their own situations in life and how they deal with it and all. Yeah. For me, it's very simple. What I've realized is the more I increase the real life commitment in my life, which is exclusive of mobile phone, the less I am with my mobile phone.
All right. Let me quickly wrap up this discussion and get in some closing thoughts from Nipun. We have discussed all the factors. We know what the problem is. We know what the solutions are. And as I said, it is lying right in the palms. The problem and the solution is in the palms of the users. But Nipun, now what next? You have this study. You have these interesting statistics in front of you. What does this now mean going forward for hardware makers like you?
Okay. As far as we are concerned, we strongly believe in the purpose which I shared with you earlier, the purpose of bringing joy to our consumers, and we believe technology is a great enabler in that, and also great catalyst for that. However, the right amount of usage is what is there. So we will continue to champion this cause of the right usage of smartphones. Whether it's through awareness, which we are doing right now through the campaign, or through actual implementation within the phone. And finally, as we say in the closing remarks of our campaign, which is we encourage you to choose your switch off time, because you only know the best. Whether it's 1 hour daily or half an hour or whatever, it the best, and therefore we encourage you to choose your switch off time.
All right. Nipun, Novinil, and Dr. Mittal, thank you so much for joining us and spreading the awareness, and also being able to talk about some practical solutions. It is the holidays, guys. Maybe it's a good time for you to spend some time away from devices, spend some time with yourself, spend some time with your family, and cut down on your screen time just a little. Start making the small changes before we hit 2021. I hope all of you have a great new year. And once again, Nipun, Novinil, and Dr. Mittal, thank you so much for joining us on this very special discussion right here on CNBC TV 18. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.